Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going through and replacing the starter on my 370. I'm 99% sure that mine went bad on mine, so I'm going to go and shoot a video and show how to replace it. Obviously, the first thing we're going to do is put the car up on jack stands, and then from there disconnect the battery. Alright, so once you have the car jacked up off the ground, like I said, next we're going to be disconnecting the battery, and we're going to be doing negative first, positive last. And once you disconnect the battery, we can go under the car and start removing the starter. Alright, so I'm underneath the car, looking forward towards the front of the car. And I have done the CMAC kit, so it may look a bit different if you do not have the CMAC kit done. So this is partially in the way, but it's mainly the actual slave cylinder that was came with a CMAC kit that relocated to the outside of the bell housing. It uses the starter bolt, or one of them, to mount this. So I'm going to have to undo this nut and bolt, move this slave cylinder out to the side, and then we can remove the starter. But also, the starter, to remove it from the actual car itself, well, obviously once you remove it from the transmission you can take it out, but congratulations, you're working on a 370Z and there is no room. So to get the actual starter out to replace it with a new one, I saw another guy talk about this, and what he did was undo the lower nut on both engine mounts and then jack up the engine, and it gives you enough clearance to remove the starter. I'm about to be doing that right now and see how that goes. Alright, so the slave is moved out the way. So that bolt right there and that one right there are the ones for the starter. But before we can even remove the starter, we have to disconnect there is a line going to it, I'll show it in a second, and also a connector. It's not really the best to show it from this side, so we have to remove the front driver's side tire. Alright, here I am in the passenger wheel well, or sorry, driver's side wheel well, and let's see if I can show you all. That right there, gotta remove this little rubber boot. There is a nut, and that's holding on the power wire that goes to the starter. And I believe there's an electrical connector somewhere. I'm just not seeing it. When I do find it, I will show y'all where it's at. Alright, so I don't know how I didn't, or how I missed this before, but the starter connector, it's right here. And it just has this line going up. I don't know if I can really show you very well, but it goes up to the starter solenoid, like right there. So disconnect that and see if we can remove it. Alright, so the starter is removed. You can see its little section that sticks into the bell housing. There's the bell housing and motor mount. And trying to remove it, the piece that the wire goes to is hitting that motor mount. So now I am about to undo both motor mounts and jack up the motor to try to get some clearance to remove the starter. Alright, if you are going to jack up the engine to get the starter out, you should definitely remove the strut bar, because if not, you're not going to be getting the engine up very high. As you can see, this engine went up a few inches. So, and now I'm going to go see if I can remove the starter. There is the mount. Plenty of room, hopefully, and now we shall see. And here it is. The starter is out. Now I just need to go, and I'm actually gonna go and get this tested to make sure it's actually broken before I go buy a new one. And I will be back, and I will go over the install. Okay, so here's the starter I removed from the car. Here's one that I just bought from Autozone. I had them test it. It kept testing fine, but it wasn't very consistent in the fact, like, of how it sounded, if that makes any sense. Sometimes it seemed like it was strong, working just fine. Sometimes it seemed like it wasn't. And my car isn't starting. I tried jump starting it. So the battery's fine, has plenty of voltage. Only other issue I think is the starter, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. Plus, pretty sure this is the OEM starter. If you can see, the rubber right here is degraded and coming off. Look at that, you can see the copper right there. So I think overall it would just be best to go ahead and replace it, and I wouldn't be surprised if this new one is actually going to fix the problem. I checked it, the connectors and everything are the same, so I'm going to go ahead and start installing it. Alright, so I got the starter installed. Once you jack up the motor, or it should already be jacked up from wherever you removed it, just put the starter in, and then you may not be able to get it up against the bell housing all the way just yet, but if you get it pretty close, you can use the bolts on the starter to kind of pull it on to where it needs to be. So once you get those bolts kind of worked in there and threaded, you can tighten them down and it should pull it up. So that's on. The 2 bolts, I tried finding the torque spec for them, and I was not very productive in trying to find that. The only thing I found was about 35 foot-pounds. I didn't find anything in the forums really helpful, so I torqued them down to 35 foot-pounds. That should be just fine. And now I'm going to go and rehook up the connector, and then rehook up the power kind of line that goes from the, or wherever it comes from. But I'm going to hook up the electrical connector that goes to here. Sorry, it goes to here, and I'm also going to hook up the other one, and then torque the motor mount to see if it starts. Alright, so once the starter is hooked up with the electrical connector and the wire that goes to the battery, the last thing to do is to torque down the motor mount nuts on the bottom to 70 foot-pounds. Reconnect your battery, positive first, negative second, and then start it up. And I already did so, and it started. I'll do that for y'all right now. That way you know I'm not lying, because I would hate to lie to you guys. There we go. Freaking awesome. So that's it for the install. I try to do my best to give you all the torque specs and make sure it's as easy as possible, and explain the steps, because sometimes I try to look up things, how to do things, and the videos that are on YouTube or whatever is on there is not very good at explaining it or giving solutions. So I try to do my best. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Good luck with the install. It's not very hard, it's kind of time consuming, so take your time. But that'll be all for the video, guys. So stay safe, drive safe, and have a good one.